Good morning, Vietnam.
We're going to just get right into it. The Federalist Papers.
Renegade Supreme, talking about...
Dude, Renegade Supreme would be the name of the Declaration of Independence signers if they had a name for themselves. Oh, wait, wasn't it the Confederation of
There was the
Independence or something?
The Articles of Confederation. Come on, man. You got to know your fucking history.
Dude,
right?
it's been a long time, and I always hated history.
The Articles
dude,
of...
I know all this sciencey weird shit, but I don't know history, dude.
So
I just know the Founding Fathers were some bad motherfuckers, dude.
It was...
they were they looked at the man, and they fucking mooned him.
Yeah.
And they just said, fuck you.
Fuck you, boys.
Which is that's what America's about.
Well,
okay,
it is.
you go.
The Articles of Confederation came before the Declaration of Independence.
Okay.
And then it was somewhat a weak foundation, and then it fell through, and then it comes later, 1776, the Declaration of Independence. Afterwards, around the 1780s, that was the Federalist Papers. Let me read. The Federalists, commonly referred to as the Federalist Papers, is a series of 85 essays written by Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison between October 1787 and May 1788. They were published anonymously under the pen name Publius. Oh, so they had pubic hair. And New York State Papers at the time, and it was published to urge New Yorkers to ratify the proposed United States Constitution. So it was commentary about what these different things the Constitution was saying. And so you have these
And you
guys,
know they were drinking coffee.
Yeah, they were drinking,
none of that tea shit.
Yeah, they were drinking coffee. They were drinking kava.
Actually, they were probably
booze.
drinking tea if it was before the Boston Tea Party.
Yeah, dude. The Boston Tea Party was lame.
Take that back, motherfucker. I grew up in Massachusetts.
Oh, is that what
that was like my favorite piece of history that they were just like
Tea Party?
pushing all the fucking tea
It's actually
in the
gangster,
ocean.
dude.
It is gangster. It's like mafia shit.
So I talked to a friend the other day, a good friend of mine, Jesse. It's a local Hawaiian boy, Hawaiian gentleman, and we got to talking, and I asked him how he was doing, and he said, man, I'm homesick. I've never been away from home this long, from his house. So let's say he went to a camp or like a boarding school, maybe a week or two, but he's never been a month and change away from his home. And he goes, I'm just homesick. He goes, we're doing all right, but I'm homesick. I want to go back. And then he just went real quick into a rant. Well, I don't give a fuck about these conspiracy theories. I don't give a fuck, right? It's Lahaina, cuz. Lahaina. Bro, fires fucking happen. It's Lahaina, cuz. It's fucking hot. Fires happen.
Yep.
Like they happen every day, and fucking that's what it is. He goes, all this shit about direct energy, and he went into that. And I guess he was upset because he felt like people were focused, as you talked about the other night at the Kava Bar, focused on something that they weren't doing anything about, right? They're just talking about something.
People love that shit.
Right? And then afterwards he goes, but I will say this. What? Do I think that maybe the United States did that? Okay, yeah. Like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they had their hand in it and it was all planned. But I mean, he goes, because the United States government are the biggest fucking gangsters out there. They're the baddest gangsters out there. The Federalist Papers, the Boston Tea Party. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're talking about the FBI, Herbert Hoover. You're talking about the CIA. You're talking about all these things. He was like, they're the baddest gangsters out there. He goes, so why wouldn't they be able to do it? He goes, well, I don't want to talk about it because what the fuck you going to do? What you going to do something about it?
Exactly. That's like... You can get to the level of IQ where you're like, oh, they did this, but then you get to the peak IQ where you're like, you just put everything in this filter of, do I have control over it? Do I have agency over these aspects? Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you save so much mental energy, and so much physical and emotional energy as well. It's
because stuff like that it'll get you upset, it get you hyped up, and it's like then you feel helpless because you're like, what are we gonna do? Right. And that's when you talk about bigger things. So we'll go into the Federalist Papers from here, but you talk about bigger things than you and these kind of these big conspiracies or this big kind of like when I was working for the zip line and I was like, we got to do something about it. Yeah. It was, we could still talk about it. And I was done talking about it. I was now trying to do something about it. Yeah. And so it would have all been for nothing if I hadn't have gone through and tried to rally the troops. And I did, and we did something about it. Now, it didn't come out to the exact conclusion we wanted, but we did something about it. And I think the reason people say, oh, it's just how it is, and they're apathetic and they just let things happen, is because they don't know what to do about it, or they're scared, or they're afraid of how do you go about it and how do you navigate. And a lot of times you have to put yourself on the line. And these guys that wrote the Federalist Papers, think about this. They started with pen names. Because they're putting their reputation on the line. They were talking about the ratification of the Constitution. So it would talk about, let's say, the taxes. It would talk about, currency, correspondence, business, slave, different things like that. They're talking about why. They're talking they're pro-Constitution and pro for ratifying different things for a better, United States, for a better union, a better entity that is a sovereign entity. But the Federalist Papers are amazing documents. Amazing. When I was 15, looked at my friends. We went to church a lot, and we went to churches for people like that were intellects. Not all of them had college degrees and stuff, but these are guys that were homeschooled, guys that read a lot, studied a lot, wrote. And I remember one day I was like, dude, I want to write something like that means something. He's like, what do you mean, like a Federalist paper? And he goes, well, that's a serious thing, Tim. I'm like, yeah, dude, I want to write one, like a modern one. And he was like, all right. And then he got on the computer and he like put different bullet points. He's like, well, then you need to do this. Like, start with this. We need to kind of do not a survey, but kind of a summary of different points and outline how you're going to write this. And I never wrote it because I was dumb and full of cum back then, but we should write a Federalist paper. So, you're from Massachusetts?
Hold on. Lift up the towel. Everything's going cattywampus. While you fix... You got to put the pop filter in front of the mic, and then you might have to do some adjusting there. I'll let you figure it out. There's a bunch of knobs. So essentially, the Federalist Papers were written for news articles.
Yes, in the New York State papers and other papers as well.
To kind of program the public to believe,
to get them on board.
Okay. And your question to me was just now?
You're from Massachusetts, so you have a rich history in just regular everyday life of the things that happen.
Massachusetts does have a rich history. That was one... I think it's the most... what's the word? I don't want to say rectifying, but it's one of the best parts about Massachusetts is the history that's there. But there's a lot of war that happened there too. But it's like the people that lived there for a period of time, Ben Franklin, the schools that exist there because of these kind of founding fathers. And growing up, it was just like, these people were here, and this is where shit went down. This is where revolution happened. Like, revolution, dude. And that's an interesting thing. I'm not too sure. Like, I don't like, even when I hear about history, I don't like to believe it fully because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
It's
like, was Pocahontas brown? I wasn't there. She could have been blue-eyed and white.
Or was it even a real story or something?
Right.
But I'm sure it was, but I just think about the idea of revolution and how powerful that is.
Oh, I love revolution.
And the only thing that's coming to mind is what I was talking about before we started, that book, Think and Grow Rich. There's a chapter called The Mastermind Principle. So for those of you that aren't aware of Think and Grow Rich, it's a book.
For those of you that are stupid.
And I've read it, and I'm not rich, so, maybe you got to read it a few times. But there's a chapter called The Mastermind Principle. And it's probably one of the more important chapters. And it's this idea that human brains and minds are like batteries. And when you get them together, their charges combine. And not only do they combine, but when you have two minds together, our brains combine and a third brain comes into the picture. It's a spiritual brain. That's kind of...
Oh, that makes sense.
It's kind of like there's more power here than just the sum of our parts.
Yeah.
So there's an increase. And the mastermind principle is this idea of getting together with two or more people. Two or more. You can't do it by yourself.
That's biblical.
Two or more. Exactly. And having a definite, direct aim, the book says, or goal or desire. And talks about how you got to get these people together. You have to work in harmony, in agreement with a definite goal. And so the book talks about the mastermind in terms of becoming wealthier. So you talk to people, you gain information, you give them your problems, they help you solve your problems, they give you their problems, you try and help the best you can. And the idea is to build this kind of network, this mastermind where everyone's working together. And ideally in like a company, you'd have that. But the book says the number one mastermind of all time, as far as I'm concerned, and this is Napoleon Hill writing, and as far as America is concerned, were the gentlemen that signed the Declaration of Independence. And it's like, reading this gave me chills.
Yeah.
Because
chicken skin, boy.
I wish I had the book. I'll read it in another podcast. I'll pull it up. But he says these men were all in agreement on something, not everything,
right,
but something. That thing was freedom, no taxation without representation, fairness, equality, the ability to believe in what you wish to believe in, and all these things, and they were willing to put their lives on the line for that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And so they essentially did. They put their lives on the line. They all got together and had this mastermind. And in that, there was enough power with their brains combined, and then the additional whatever, superior brain,
party of it,
the divine brain, whatever that intelligence, that they were so focused on the single goal that they changed the course of history. They changed the course of an entire continent, a landmass, an entire subdivision of humanity in a signing of a paper. And had they not done it together, it would not have happened.
Amen. 1776, bitches. So, it sounds like, well, we already mentioned it, but it's revolution. So revolution is evolution, right?
Revolution.
Right. We have to evolve and adapt. But if they didn't come together and focus, it wouldn't have happened, right? As we just said.
Right.
But we have to evolve and challenge, right? Evolving, I believe, has to do with challenging, right? And that revolution is evolution. Now, some people I've talked to say, oh, you want revolution? Go to a third world country. You don't want revolution. Go to Cuba. See how there's, here's the thing, though. Revolution is not just one thing that's blanket and that's what it looks like.
It's not just violence.
Yeah, it doesn't look the same everywhere. We revolted in the zipline company. There was revolution I tried to do at the hotel. And then when I left the hotel, next thing you know, through all this disaster, all my friends are like, dude, all these managers that you fucking hated and said that they were fucking shitty, they turned out to be shitty. And I was like, well, see, that's why I raise awareness to get these people to evolve out of that kind of narrow-minded, that short-sighted ideology and minded way of thinking.
Right.
And revolution is evolution. Evolution is revolution.
And that's why I think humanity produces people like you.
Oh, yeah, brown people. Black people.
Revolutionaries. People who are willing to push the boundaries. Maybe you weren't always like that. Maybe you developed like
I wasn't.
And let's talk about that in a little bit, but I think this idea of revolution being evolution is really interesting. And I want to just connect it to cycles.
Ooh, menstrual cycles? No.
Menstrual cycles. Yes, exactly that. There's a flushing. Every month there's a flush. Everyone's afraid. All my friends, at least, not all of them. A good amount of my friends they talk a lot about the top, the elite, people with all the money, the top banks, the Guildensterns and the Rosencrantzes, whoever.
Rosencrantz.
The Shakespeares and the Gildennots. But it's like the conversation usually goes like how I don't like it to go. It's these people control everything. We're just puppets. And what I want to connect with this idea that you just had is that revolution is evolution, or revolution is a necessary step to evolution.
Okay, yeah.
It's a spark, essentially. And when revolution happens, which it will always happen, the higher ups, the elites, the whatever, the gods, the Egyptian pharaohs, the French monarchy will be beheaded.
Oh.
If you just look at history, like that is how it goes. Mm-hmm. Either they're beheaded or they die of old age, but they never escape the cycles of time. And revolution is inevitable, and evolution is inevitable. And I think more so revolution comes when evolution is stunted. And so revolution is a natural, like, almost like an immune response of the earth, of humanity as an effect against this stunted growth.
Take that, Darwin.
Yeah.
But you think Darwin, looking at finches and fucking feathered fuckers.
I would almost relate that to nature, yeah, because I read this in a book somewhere, and it's still the theory of evolution, but I kind of in the belief system that the fish didn't become the bird because it was more advantageous. The fish became the bird because the fish desired to fly.
Right. And they were stunted, right? It was like we just swimming, right?
And they're stunted.
There's more to life than that.
And why in evolution do we just have these gaps? Because there's no evidence of interspecies, like in the fossil records, there's just jumps in species.
Oh, it's like there's no record of like
there's no in between. We don't have evidence of the in between species that would exist through a gradual period of time. It's just they're just clicks up.
That's why when we were growing up, it's always like the missing link. We still haven't found it.
We still haven't found it.
Everyone's like, oh, look at that Down syndrome kid, he's the missing link. Oh, look at that duckbill platyfuck, he's the link. It's like, no. Keep going with that. Keep going. So that could be the revolution, where the link is the revolution.
No. Oh well, maybe no. But I'm saying that jump is the species going. We're done with this. We're growing bigger beaks. Like this is maybe it's just this is a very far-fetched idea, but it's far-fetched ideas that eventually become real. But just like picture yourself as an animal, or like a wolf or something. I don't know.
I like what you're...
A type of a bear, right? Or I'm trying to think because it's hard. Or we'll go back to humans. So you're a human. You're a Neanderthal.
Yeah.
Or you're like Homo erectus.
I'm not gay, bro.
Dude, I'm not gay, but
Was Homo?
I am Homo erected.
Was Homo erectus not like an ape man? Was it just a fucking hard dick walking around with fucking posable thumbs?
Yes. But what if you were Homo erectus in I don't want to say it's as simple as one Homo erectus person decided I'm going to evolve. But I have a feeling that energy of it's time for change. It's time for something better.
Well,
we deserve
at least
better.
2 or more, right?
So maybe it's a group of them.
A group of them, yeah.
A group of them that separated and evolved and then passed on their traits. But that's just kind of like using the theory of evolution to talk about this topic where it's levels up. There's no gradual. It's just like,
and
let's go here. Let's choose this next level and go there rather than be vague about where we're going.
So it seems unconventional because it's like we understand this idea of science and nature and that you need to see the gradual change, right? It makes sense. It's like you're a kid, you grow, you get taller. But you talking about that, and since we brought this up, I think the reason that we look for the link but can't find it is because when, let's say, the fish or homo fucking recto fucking whatever,
dude.
Yeah, when they combine, right? Two or more get together and they decide there is a jump, like you said, and the link will use this idea of Declaration of Independence and this idea that's like what happened. They put their lives on the line. These guys, they focused, and then people died. Now, it's not necessarily about violence, but where was the link? The link was in the people that are gone, right? So you're not going to see the gradual because they're gone. You won't see the gradual because the jump was we need to do something, and there will be sometimes a sacrifice. So you're not going to see the gradual. There's just a link. And this idea for us to make sense, we think it has to be gradual, but why does it? Because you practice to jump higher, right? No one sees you practicing. They just hear about how you practice. And then one day the guy goes into a basketball game and he fucking can jump up high and slam dunk. You're like, wow, he was in high school. He couldn't fucking do that. You don't see the practice. We're not going to see the link. And it's almost not about the link. It's about that, like you said, it's those levels up. I fucking like that shit.
Well, I agree with you, except for that one point. If people die, you would be able to find evidence. There would be fossil records.
Fuck that, no.
Because everyone's dead in the fossil record anyway.
I don't believe in fossils.
So death wouldn't mean we couldn't...
Well, all the intelligence, right? All the creativity and beauty, that's in the cemetery. Right. So yes, it is there.
It's magic. Evolution is magic.
Yeah.
We still don't have... It's still not a law. It's still not seriously a law. We know it happens. We know things expand, and on Earth, at least, life becomes more intelligent.
Yeah.
Through time and through periods of transition. But like even on Earth, the development of life happened in stages of essentially mass extinction events. So there were the dinosaurs, and it didn't go a gradual dinosaurs to humans. It was dinosaurs, and then it was meteors.
Yeah.
Destroyed all of them.
RBs, boy.
So it went dinosaurs, then it went mammals. Like it went dinosaurs, and then let's level this up. Like it's almost as if the patterns of Earth have it this way for a while until we can't take it anymore, and we have to. It's not like a gradual growth. It's a, that kind of pattern. And it's also interesting is that kind of pattern exists in the atom, in the electron orbital states. Do you remember that in chemistry?
No, I was in remedial classes. I never took chemistry.
Well, you know the history. I know the chemistry. Yeah. So the way electrons are around an atom that determines a lot of things like chemical bonds, and it determines like the release of energy from atoms and such. So as far as I understand it, the electrons exist in definite levels of energy above and below the atom. And they never exist in between. They can exist in anywhere around in this in between, but there's these kind of it's like a wave pattern. They more so exist here, and they call these like the orbitals or the energy states. And so if you add energy to the system, it'll go up. If you add more energy, but if you release energy, it'll and go down, and maybe it'll release light or heat or something. And so the transition of energy in the atom exists in definite levels, or like locative planes, not in a completely gradual scale, a sliding scale. And I think that's almost reflecting of how evolution works. When we sort of bless you.
God damn it.
When we sort of level up, when we decide to revolt, that's us going.
That's that energy, right? Holy shit.
Dude, that's the energy right there.
Dude, that's the universe saying, no, they figured it out. The Martians are like, they're almost there. They're going to cosmically orgasm. Fuck! Shit! They know too much. Kill them all. Holy shit.
Oh, God, dude. Distract them. Yeah. They're not supposed to know this on Earth.
Yeah. Put some titties in front of them.
There will be no reason to be on Earth anymore.
Tell them, put in their minds.
Black hole forms.
I love titties.
The Martians are like, red, Project Red, hit the red button. It's just,
dude, I would be if you put titties in front of me, I'd be so distracted. Because when I see some,
Martians, if you're hearing, if you want us to stop, you have to just give us a lot of women just in our lives
just
that want to be with us. That just
topless.
In our bedrooms. Whenever we want them, just we blink our eyes twice and they come. Or I'll like wiggle my ears,
Yeah.
So that's how you can distract us.
That's how you can put us off the rails. Well, because when I see some whole milk handbags, I get hot, boy. When I see some dairy cones, some fucking vitamin D drippers, boy, I just fucking woo. So woo.
Well, I want to get back on that so we can continue this Earthgasm.
Man, so this idea of the electrons and the charged.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of when you talked about levels, I think it's inherent in nature. If you look at geology, like I took historical geology and we would see rocks. And of course, when you have different types of rock and sand and stuff, and you look at the side of like a creek bed or like a mountain or like a cliff, you'll see the different types of rocks.
Right.
Now, you may see it like, it's suddenly gradual from, let's say sand to clay or something like that. But the idea is the professor made us see, you can see very clearly the division lines. Like it was just one and then it was the other. It was they were compartmentalized. It was separate. And so that's that level up, right? It's like, it was sand here. Now it's clay. Yes, you may see it like kind of melt into the next one, but if it was gradual, it just looked like a nice gradient. But that's not what you see. You see the definitive lines. Levels, you see the definite levels. And that, to me, thinks even in nature, it's showing that, like that with that energy, that in the electrons that we were talking about, it's the 3, 2 or more that come together. That's the energy. Boom. Revolution. Bam. Level up. Titties.
Dude, bag up, son.
Bag up, bitch.
Dude, level up. 100%. And I think this is what happens in our minds, where it doesn't matter, even if it's in your own individual life, there comes a point where you decide, I'm not willing to take this anymore. Whatever it is, health problems, relationship problems, I'm not willing to be abused anymore. I'm not I level up. And then you just to this new level and you never go back.
Never.
Unless you're in a state of a lot of stress and you might dip back, but you usually usually once you get to that level, it's easy to stay there. It's just, oh shit. They're like you're getting it again.
Stop it!
Stop talking about this.
Oh my gosh.
They're like, there's no point of living. The whole point of living is to forget this.
Dude, every time that wind fucking hits
I should go pee because
yeah.
I feel like it's gonna be another fire at this point, dude.
Dude, some alien was just fucking jacking the fuck off, and he was like, "Oh shit!"
He's like the security guy for Earth. And he's like at like a billion TVs and everything. He's just like, my boss is gonna be so mad.
He just like throws his Dunkin' Donuts out. Fuck it, these glazed donuts suck. They've got it.
It's like the fucking Star Wars, and then like Darth Vader's the ruler, and like Darth Vader's like right over his shoulder, and he's like missing this, and Darth Vader's like, what is that? What are they talking about?
Mr.
And he's like,
Sir,
they're talking about leveling up.
Sir Vader, I'm so sorry.
They keep saying bag up. I didn't know what that meant at first, but now they're saying level up.
And I'm so sorry. All right, yeah, I'll read something for him. You go do that.
We have to come back to this though.
Yeah. We should come back to it. Are you going to go pee?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you read whatever. Sorry.
So we're going to read a quick yoem. I'm going to read a quick yoem. There are grave injustices in this world. There are many great triumphs, but forever it seems we will carry the sins of our fathers in country, in family, and in personal property. Personal, I don't know what that word is. Personal something, that load. Sorry, this was written in Scribble's first draft. In family and personal property, we'll say, or perspective, I don't know. That load, that weight we carry so naturally and painfully is of the greatest error we've accomplished, a horrible sin indeed. We have done wrong. Pug knows we will do wrong, and there is nothing wrong with doing wrong. So what must we do? Maybe nothing. Plow the land itself, the land of our lives, and let it all grow back. You see, plants, trees, they got it right. They do not carry their sins, but bury them, recycle in the ground again, live, die, and march on like Martin. They give life and love life. Don't know what it's called. It's untitled, but yeah, it's another little piece of literature by Texan Puello at SUbstack. Check them out.
That's my favorite one.
Oh, yeah. It's called Untitled, bitch. Untitty titled.
It's called Entitled to be Untitled.
It's called Titled Titties.
Title titties?
Titled Titties.
Ooh, dude, those are the best kind. When they're like got that salt water on them. They're coming right out of the tidal pools.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of like to have... I like big areolas and then like,
You really do? Really?
Pointy I like all tits, actually. I don't have any preference.
It seemed like you were into those pepperoni.
Oh, yeah.
Which is totally, absolutely fine. Well,
Yeah.
It surprised me.
Yeah, if you ever meet
I figured you would be into like the pencil tip.
Yeah, oh, I like those
Cuts
too.
your tongue a little bit. You know?
Oh, yeah, them fucking glass cutters. What, them glass cutter titties?
Dude, that's what I got, dude. When it's cold out, I got my shirt off, dude. You look at my little tiny nips, dude. They're gonna cut glass. They're gonna cut your corneas.
Dude, we had
They're gonna cut your retina.
we had a mechanics, auto mechanics teacher in high school. About this old fucking country dude, this old fucking redneck white dude. Had glasses, real skinny. Always had snuff or cigarettes in his pocket, and it was this. I think her name was Marissa. And she was this Latina girl. She came by, and he goes, she walked by, and we were all sitting there. He goes, God damn, she'd cut glass with them things sticking out. Right. Nobody cared. Everyone's like, yeah, we agree. Whatever.
Was she not wearing a bra? Is that what you said?
I don't know. But them some bitches, she could have been wearing a bra. Some bitch cut right through them, boy. Little peeking holes.
That was the best. I remember my first time growing up that I saw, because I grew up around very modest women for the most part, cover everything up, turtlenecks and all that kind of stuff.
So they're white. They weren't black.
Yeah, they were white.
That's New England.
Well, that was my family. My family is white. I mean, it's just...
Yeah. But go ahead.
So I remember I was at a baseball game.
Oh,
I remember it was the coach's wife. Huge knockers, dude. And she was just wearing the skinniest white shirt.
Yeah.
And you could see like the full, and I just my young, whatever, 11-year-old mind was just like, or maybe I was like 8 or 9. Yeah, at 11 I was a lot older than 8 or 9. I was like,
oh my goodness.
This is what life's about. You see that as a kid, you're like, why isn't everyone doing this?
Right. She had them half and half helipads.
And you also realize like that's how she gets her way.
Oh yeah.
And she just walks up and be like, honey, can you pick up the kids later? And he just looks down and yes, whatever you say.
Whatever you say.
It's hypnosis, really.
Before we get into the leveling up and the idea of evolution, revolution, do you remember the first titties you ever touched?
Dude, I want a shirt that says that.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll get that tattooed.
Fuck yeah.
Revolution, evolution.
Yeah. The first titties I ever touched were from
your mom's, because you're breastfed.
Yeah, that too, but the second one...
Unless you were formula fed.
No, I was breastfed. Why? I was sucking on them titties. Son.
That's why you're so healthy.
The first ones I ever touched was my neighbor's. And it was my best friend growing up. It was his sister's, and she was a dark-skinned lady, fried chicken eating girl. You know what I mean? And
they're the best, dude.
Dude, I was probably in 5th grade. Oh my gosh, I remember that. Oh, I remember it. And then afterwards, dude. I felt like I kind of did something naughty. I just ran because there were neighbors. I just ran back to my house. Oh, I thought you were staying there for longer. Thought y'all were playing basketball. Oh, we're done, Mom. We're done. Oh, okay.
I'm gonna find. You're like, I accomplished everything I needed to.
Yeah, I have been enlightened.
We're done. I need to go sit in my room and stare at the ceiling for a long time.
Yeah.
That's funny. You leveled up then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, them creamer candles, boy. Just burning at the tip.
It's interesting, though, like, this idea that at least in terms of humans and in terms of my own life and my friends' lives, I'm so happy Neville's right there.
Yeah.
That's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
He's the epitome of leveling up. And change happens in an instant. Change, it seems like it happens over time.
But it doesn't.
It seems like you build that habit over time. And you do. But the change happens, the change inside of you happens in an instant.
It's immediate.
Like your child's born, changed in an instant. There's a lot of things that led up to that, but that leveling up, that change in consciousness, change in the way you look at things.
That's right away, yeah.
It happens, it's like a click. And yes, the habits lead to that. And I almost want to say what happens with the habits is you build up energy. And the energy builds up to the point where you bump up, just like in an atom. And I think that's how the earth works. The energy builds up, and then there's a new level of something. Or even in humanity, the energy builds up, and then revolution, and then leveling up. Or even just us deciding we want to make our lives better or different. Well, there's a building up of pressure, and then there's a release of that pressure. There's a building up of energy. There's a building up of I don't like this, and then even it's like sex. It's orgasm, the building up of tension, and then the release. And that just seems like an eternal rhythm in life. This leveling up, but it's a leveling. It doesn't seem like you go back down. It seems like
no. After it levels up, right? Then it's back to building back up. You think everyone's like, oh, it goes back down. No, it doesn't go back down. Now, since you've leveled up, you're building back up to the next level up again. So for you fucking pubic hair,
you're always expanding.
Yeah, for the pubic hair peasants out there that don't understand,
dude,
I'm gonna mention some names: Matt Marlin, ZP. Fucking 808 Ferns, Nixon.
Dude.
These are our listeners.
Brian Regan.
Yeah.
Matt Harnoy.
Samuel L. Jackson. But I look at
Jimmy. Kevin.
Yeah.
Ryland.
Yeah, Ryland. So think of it like a volcano. There's two examples I want to see if I understand what you're saying. So AA is an example. In AA, but the first example, it's easier to get across, is a volcano. It builds up, and then when it's ready to erupt, it goes, right? But everyone's saying, yeah, so it's a gradual change. No, because the action, the action that changes is the eruption, and it doesn't matter how long it took to build up. That's not a gradual change. It got ready, and then boom, it happened, right? Then it creates new land masses, right? Just like new islands.
Yeah.
So volcanoes are sacred because they are this idea of rebirth and new life, evolution, revolution.
Dude.
So then in AA, I met this one guy when I was in AA, and he was late to the AA meeting. He came in, and you share, and he goes, yeah, my name is like Jay Vaughn or some stupid shit like that. And he goes, I just want you to know why I was late. I've been having all these problems. He had problems like lost his wife, lost his business, all these things. He didn't actually have any like criminal thing that happened, but he was losing his business. He's in lawsuits now. And he said, my friends told me, they were like,
he's in lawsuits?
Yeah, he was in lawsuits and stuff. And he said, my friends told me, dude, just come to the bar. Like, let's talk about this. You need to just, like, you need to get this stuff off your chest. And he goes, and I stood outside the bar, and then I left, and I came to the AA meeting, and I stood outside for 30 minutes, and then I came inside. And he goes, I decided not to drink today. But he goes, I drank yesterday. And I was hearing, and what you hear in AAs, you hear this all the time. Oh, I got 30 years sobriety, 15, 20, 45, 47. And I just stopped. And I'm the young buck. And I go, hey, Javon, I want you to know that your decision to not drink today, right? It wasn't this gradual thing. It was just as powerful, even more powerful than 40 years, because it's exactly the same. Because it is a current, immediate, it is a conscious decision right here and now in the present to say I wasn't going to drink. And then everyone's like, now you got to get more years. It's not about the length, because the next day is just that day. The past is gone. You're doing it again. It's a single thing. So it wasn't a gradual like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to. It was building up to, am I going to do it now or am I not going to do it now? And he decided not to. Right. And some of the people were like, oh, what are you fucking talking about? But I felt like it was very insightful because I wanted him to realize that what he did is not something trivial. He was just as strong as someone that has done it every day for 47 years. Not, I did it for 47 years. Yeah. I did it every day. So that's that level up. It's that it builds up, and then you make the decision. And then it changes because you don't become sober overnight. You become sober when you make that decision. The change happens instantly. Yeah. And then the next day, he's building up again. And then if he doesn't sober, right, he hasn't backslided, right? What happens is he's built up, and then he made the decision to not be sober. Well, guess what? Now that is a new frontier he has to battle. And there's a reason. He's thinking, but I was yesterday. So now he's navigating through this idea of the knowledge of knowing what it's like to make the opposite decision, and he's building back up to do something different. It's a new challenge, even though they say it's the same challenge, if that makes sense. And it's always leveling up. The change happens instantly. Incredible. I agree with you. Titties.
There's yes, titties. There is a author that I like. He's also on the webs, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he's a chiropractor doctor, so I'd put that in there. If you like Tim's spitting sounds, comment in the comment section.
Sorry.
Well, no, but they might like it. You know,
Like, oh,
it's like
someone's just jerking it to the.
fucking love this shit, dude. You're just like,
I had a friend that he was not a big fan of. We were watching a show on HBO.
mouth noises.
And he was like, "Oh my gosh, it just."
There's a lot of people like that.
And I was like, "You don't like it?" He was like, "Because that dude's blowing another dude. It's so gross." And I was like, "Okay, if you closed your eyes and walked in and didn't know it was two guys committing these sadistic acts," I was like, "Well, that's the same sounds that a girl makes." He was like, "Yeah, but that's hot." I was like, "But it's the same sound. How do you fucking know the difference unless you saw?" I was like, "You're a fucking idiot."
When we find out Tim's gay now.
Yeah, O'Kiger Wood, boy.
You're just like,
O'Kiger.
you're like, how is it not hot?
Yeah. All
Two dudes blowing each other.
Yeah.
How is that not turning you on? He's like,
all mouth noises are awesome.
it's being human. But Dr. Joe Dispenza is, he was a guy who got in a car accident, broke his spine. They told him he'd be in a wheelchair for life. And with the power of thought, he healed himself. That's the basic premise, and he teaches all about what that was. What he did was he visualized his vertebrae and how it's supposed to look. And he just kept visualizing it and building that picture until he had it so clearly in his mind that it was real in his mind, and his body followed suit. And I'm a believer of miracles. Talking with Jacob, we should have him on the podcast, but he, being in the Pentecostal church, he's seen a lot of miracles happen. And the miracles, they usually happen as a leveling up. You know, it doesn't happen gradually. Doesn't seem like it happens gradually. But anyways, Joe Dispenza has a very popular or very common thing he phrases, and he says, in order to change your personal reality, you have to change your personality, your identity. And so when the alcoholics become sober, they're choosing almost in a way to say, I just don't drink. That's not me. It's not me. It's not me anymore. Right now, I don't even like it. You change that in your mind, and it's that happens in an instant. It happens this is not for me. So I'm no longer that person. I'm sober. I am. But even saying I'm sober is almost like saying I'm an alcoholic. You know, when people say they're sober, it's like, so you had a problem.
Yeah.
But it's like,
and that's a school of thought, a mindset we need to change that perspective on it.
It's like, that's not me.
Right.
It's not me. It's not that it's not something I don't do or do. It's not me, because what we do is about our personality. It's about who we are, who we identify as. And so when you change your daily actions, it's not the actions that are changing. It's you that's changing. It's your personality that's changed. So, like, when you go from someone who watches porn all day and jerks off every day to someone who has a passion and starts going out and meeting girls, it's a leveling up, or it's just it's a change in levels. You don't necessarily always level up, because I think you can go down a level. I think
but you're always changing.
Not always changing.
Right.
But you're always probably going some direction.
Yeah.
You know. And I think more commonly we're always leveling up. And if you're not, you probably need help. You probably need to go to therapy or find someone to help you, because it's a natural thing to feel like you're leveling up. I think if you feel like your life is going downhill, you need help. You say this a lot. Addiction is or
the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection.
Connection.
Hoo-wee. And that was like some German guy that had said it that I think Joe Rogan had on his podcast, but I thought it was phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. But it happens in an instant when you decide to work out or to be healthier. You just do it. You just do it. It just becomes part of you. You just, wow, I'm going to the gym. It's like, it's not like, why are you going to the gym? It's like, well, I just cause it's like, that's who I am. I like it. that is something who I am. That's what I do. I gym. I go to the gym. And then when you don't go to the gym, people who don't work out, and I've been in both camps. I haven't gone to the gym consistently for a few years now, but you also, those kind of people, you sort of, I don't want to admit this, but my mindset is like, I don't need to. My mindset is just so, and my personality has changed to the point where I'm not like, I need to go to the gym and it's something I have to do. It's more so, I'm like, well, I mean, I just live my life. Like, I don't know, what's the point in spending your time in a box? And I'm not saying this to say gym is good or bad. I'm saying this to say it's a level, it's a change in more than just your actions. It's a change in the level of your thinking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was going to the gym a lot to deal with emotional problems I didn't realize I wasn't dealing with. Because every time I had like emotional turbulence, I'd be like, I just need to go to the gym for 3 hours.
It's a good release. It's a good, it's therapeutic.
And then I started getting heart palpitations at the gym. and I was like, well, maybe I should deal with my emotional. But this is a really interesting topic.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing the correlations in everything now. This level change.
We should.
Do you think it's?
Go ahead.
Do you think it's a decision? It's always a decision?
No. I think if it was always a decision, that would mean our hand is always the moving piece. And yet there's that outside force. In economics, there's like the invisible hand. In church, there's the Holy Spirit. There's God's hand.
Oh yeah.
Right. So it's not always a decision. Sometimes I think you're like, for instance, the alcoholic, the guy or whatever, he's like, all right, I choose not to drink, right? But the next day, let's say he's not focused on that anymore because he's like, I conquered that yesterday. And then the next day, he just goes, let's say he goes to the gym. And then maybe that wasn't his thought or decision. It was just like, I think it's hard to describe. Like, it's like sometimes there's a point, maybe to think of it like you said with the gym, like you make the decision one time and then it just kind of happens. After that, you're just like, well, this is what I do now. And you're not sitting there going, oh, I must go to the gym. Because if I go running, I'm going to tell myself I'm going to go running today. And then the next day I just get up and go. I don't remember saying I'm going to do it today. It just happened again. But then when I take a few days off, I have to consciously make that decision again. Right. So I think there is, some of it that leveling up and that change.
But my argument to that is that you've yet to identify as a runner. You've yet to identify as someone who's going to run every day.
Right.
And probably for a good reason, because maybe you don't want to, like. Right. But like, when people change and their daily habits change, I believe that happens on a deep, like visceral, this is who I am level. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge believer of this because in the change and the progression of my health, there had to be personality changes where I went, you go from essentially being a victim to victor. You go from I'm not in control to, you know what, fuck it, I'm choosing to be in control.
Okay.
And that comes with a personality change. Like if you met me when I was like 13, 14, 15, you'd be like, this is nothing like this guy I'm talking to right now. And most people are like that, I would say. There's that much change. I hope. Well, it's your personality that changes. It's like who you decide you are. You know, it's like if you're a bitch,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, you're a bitch.
Yeah.
And eventually that comes to a point where you're like, wow, I don't want to be a bitch anymore.
Yeah.
You have to, there's a change.
Yeah, I don't want to be Oprah anymore.
And the change isn't that I'm a bitch. I'm always going to be a bitch. So let me just try and be nicer. No, because every nice thing you do is going to be bitchy.
Yes.
You're going to be like, have me some coffee.
Can I get you some more toaster strudel?
I'm not a bitch. No, you change. You in your mind, you become gregarious, generous,
Ooh, college, baby.
caring.
Yeah.
You
There's a certain amount, Nietzsche talked about it, master mentality versus slave mentality, right? There's the madman, and I don't know it verbatim, but he talked about the madman comes into this like old town, and he's got this like lamp, this oil lamp or whatever, and he's just like, where's God? Where is he at? You know, it's like either I'm too late or I'm too soon, this kind of thing. And it was like, they said it was a madman, but the idea was, it was master mentality versus slave mentality. I remember the professor talked about it, and he was like, are you going to be eating chips on the couch, watching TV, or are you going to take control? He was, and people don't like it when you use words like slave and master mentality because of what they say it reminds them of. But it's, once again, when you talk about jobs and vocations, they'll say, what's your discipline? What's your slave? Right? I read Malcolm X's autobiography, Alex Haley, and when he went to like, I think, New York, and he was talking to a guy, he's like, oh, you got a slave? And I was like, oh, wait. And he was like, you got a job. What's your slave? You know, what is this thing that you do? Right? And the idea is like, you want to get away from that idea. Not the idea of that, like using the words, but this idea in the mentality that you are in control, like you just said, like that point where it's like, this is what I'm doing. I'm now in control. Master mentality. I love that, dude. Nietzsche, boy.
It just blew my mind. You are not the master of your own mind until you're also the slave of your own mind.
That's how you become the author of your salvation.
You
realize that.
I would say this is why God, this idea of God is important. Because until you are a slave of your own mind, and what I mean by that is you become the master. You say, I will do this. We've all been there. You say that and then you don't do it. So you're not the slave. You think you're the master. Maybe you're the master for a second, but the master ain't a master without a slave.
That's right.
Right? So if you're not following the master of your mind, and the master of your mind could be correlated to the Holy Spirit or God.
Right.
Right? The master, the internal intuition, the heart, the wisdom that resides within. The things we all know we should be doing, but we just don't. Until you're a slave to those, until you will follow them with faith, you'll never be the master either.
Right.
So what are you following then? So one could say that we're all slaves. We're always slaves until we decide to be the masters of our own kind of bodies.
Yeah, there's a movie. It's called. Is it?
It's really
I
interesting.
forget what the movie was called, but it had Jason Statham and Andre 3000 in it. It was very good.
Did you say Andre 3000?
Yeah.
Is that a car model?
No, that's his rapper name. You know, Andre, yeah, the shake the photograph. You know, shake like a Polaroid.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Yeah. So
I don't know artists in general. Like,
yeah. In the movie, though, it's about the long con
song.
because they're criminals, they're con men. It's the long con, and it's a mesh of the mathematical and the quantum physics behind chess. Chess moves and winning a chess game and the long con. So you put those together, but it's doing in the background, it's dealing with the id and the ego and how like you are a slave to your own mind. Your mind, like I don't know if it was the id or the ego, but it's like it's the enemy. And you think it's your best friend. And then once you realize that, then you now are the master of it. Just like what you were saying, right? When you realize that like you have this thing inside of you that you're a slave to, right? You then become the one that you become the id or the ego, and then you are in control, and you're telling your body like, no, your body's going like, no, we gotta do this. Oh my gosh, we're gonna die. Oh, it's raining outside. You're gonna melt. Fucking witches and shit. And then you're like, no, I'm in charge. That's what I thought of when you were saying like this. You have to master. You have to become the slave. You have to realize that you are a slave.
Realize that you are a slave
to become the master, right? Because you it's the dual. You have to have. They're both there, right? Because there is no master if we are not slave to something or ourselves. We're a slave to our mind, right? And at the end of the movie, in the credits, they have these like legit psychologists and therapists in the credits, like talking about like, oh, people don't realize like their biggest enemy is themselves. It's in their inside. It's really fucking cool.
Oh, dude, it's
called Revolver.
I mean, there's. In every story, there's conflict, and like some of the best stories is the self, the conflict with the self.
Can I carry this burden?
You're right. You have to get to the point where you realize that you've been a slave, and then you decide to be the master, and you say, and it comes in a moment where you go, enough of this. You go, and I think this is why this whole. There's been a movement for like the past, it's almost been 10 years. 2015 was a long time ago. Since like 2015ish, Wim Hof, the Iceman, cold plunging, this idea of submitting yourself to these cold temperatures, and you. I mean, I know there's breathing techniques, but the breathing techniques help you get through it. But essentially, what you're doing is you're jumping into cold, and your body's having this slave reaction of
get me out,
and you're going, breathe. I'm in control. I make the rules here, and it's sort of like you're training your master, and I think that is probably the power of working out as well.
So you mentioned this in the stories.
I'm realizing I'm a slave. I'm realizing more and more like some of the things I do every day. It's
go get me coffee, white boy. So this is when you say
my slave is white, and my master is white.
Dude,
my master is probably like a fucking like cockroach or something.
Mexican Kafka. You talking about Kafka? Franz Kafka, boy. You know about Kafka? Reading Kafka, The Metamorphosis? Good book.
I don't know.
So, think about this. You said the stories, all these stories, there's this idea of conflict, and we're talking about master and slave. So, think about this. If you take, let's say, Frodo, for example, with the ring, in these stories, so we're a slave, right? And the conflict is, he's like, can I carry this burden? The burden was so much carrying the ring. And he was like, I don't know if I can carry this burden anymore. And then he carried the ring all the way to the end. But how did he do it? Because then he realized the burden is not in control of me. I'm not a slave to the burden anymore. I'm not a slave. I'm the master of this burden. And then he's able to move forward, right? Because so many times in the story, it was this conflict of, I don't think I can do this. Because he was still, the slave part was still, more powerful. It's kind of how I saw that. But
eventually he becomes the master of the burden and casts off the burden.
Yeah.
Because doesn't he eventually destroy the ring?
It gets destroyed, yeah.
And doesn't Gollum die in the end too?
Yeah.
It's almost as if Gollum and the ring were Frodo's were they the snow? They were the surrogate masters, the masters that were not the true masters. So they were the masters Frodo was following, and he cast them off into the volcano, because Gollum represented the master that is demented and tormented, that is leading you towards these things that don't serve you. My ring, put the ring on. Shit. And he burned, but the ring burned. But they're one and the same. And
so once you cast them off, the old master and slave, you get rid of them, then you become the new master, right? You have to cast them off. There was this interesting thing that Gollum had a very intimate and somewhat equal kind of this relationship with Frodo, because they were experiencing the same burden, right? And he felt like he was master,
right?
You know, because Gollum was like, yes, master, because he had the ring, right? But the idea was he was still a slave to Gollum too, because he experienced the same burden. And like you said, when they went off, right? And sometimes in evolution, in revolution, what has to happen is, as you just said, like the burden has got to be cast off, right? So then there's a new evolutionary start. There's a new revolution. So Gollum mastered his slavery by dying with the ring, right? And so that sacrifice is real. And it doesn't have to necessarily be that life or death sacrifice, but in that respect, it has to it has to be. That's why they talk about in the Bible. My mom always talked about dying to yourself. You have to die to yourself.
Dude, I want to meet your mom.
Accept the slavery that you had, that sin or whatever evil has over you. You die to yourself, and you do that for the master. And once you die to yourself, it's anew, and then you are the master. She didn't say that part, but that's what we're going to. She was smarter than she knew.
So in some ways, death is a way to escape the slavery. Death is a way, because
and that's revolution.
I don't know if you believe in rebirth, but I'm sort of the idea that we come to Earth thousands of times, and we live life thousands of times, and I think we do it for fun mostly. And I think we're just kind of, immortal beings that are just like, heaven's great and all, but we need to mix it up a little bit. Let's go to Earth, that kind of thing. Something like that. But I think that dying is a way to cast off these ideas, but the more delicious thing to do is to in the carne, the meat suit, to evolve and show yourself that you are not the slave, that you are this entity outside of that. You're this spirit or something.
Yeah, well,
that's really profound, that analogy with Gollum.
Yeah, well,
cast off your slave and your burden.
There has to
become the master of it, so you can cast it off.
So I think in a lot of theology and philosophy, many times they talk about this idea of like death brings life, right? So of course, all the things we talk about, staying on topic though, but all the things we talk about kind of intertwine, from play to myths to this to that consciousness. But the dying to yourself biblically, the death that brings resurrection, right? So what happened was they said Christ died on the cross, right? So he took the slavery and the sin. He took all of it upon himself. And then the story is he goes down to hell. And he fucking throws one of them Muhammad Ali, just one of Michael Jordan 360 dunks, and fucks the devil up, right? So he casts off the burden of all of our sins, and then he becomes the master, and that's why he was able to resurrect. So if you do not get rid of the burden, if you do not accept the slavery that you're a part of or in that burden, you don't get to become the master. And so in revolution, when we're evolving as human beings, evolving as plants or animals, we're moving forward, but we want something better. So there is a certain amount of sacrifice, a burden that we have to take, and that has to die. That part has to die, whether you mean physically, violently, within skirmishes and war, but there's something that has to die for the new to step in. And that's what we mean by revolution. That's what I'm talking about. Revolution, boy. I can suck on them lactose lollipops, boy.
And that's where we're going to leave it for this episode.
Renegade
That was
Supreme.
amazing.
Come back. We're going to talk about it in part 2. Boom, bitches.